Humanity had always been a species of curiosity and resilience, but for centuries, they were dismissed by the galactic community as primitive and insignificant. The galaxy was an ancient place, ruled by species who had mastered the stars long before humans had even discovered fire. These elder races maintained a delicate balance of power, built on controlled energy sources and strict regulations. Humanity, however, was not content to remain in the shadows. In a quiet research facility on Earth, a team of scientists worked tirelessly on a project that would change everything. Their breakthrough came in the form of zero-point energy, a technology capable of harnessing the infinite energy of the quantum vacuum. The implications were staggering. Unlimited power, faster than light travel, and the ability to manipulate space-time itself. For the first time, humanity held the keys to a future beyond their wildest dreams. The news of the breakthrough spread like wildfire, first among Earth's leaders and then, inevitably, to the galactic community. The reaction was one of disbelief, quickly followed by alarm. The elder races had long relied on their monopoly over advanced energy sources to maintain their dominance. Humanity's discovery threatened to upend the delicate balance they had worked so hard to preserve. Emergency councils were convened and debates raged across the stars. Some called for immediate action to suppress humanity's rise, while others warned against provoking a species that now wielded such power. The galaxy, once so confident in its order, was now gripped by uncertainty. On Earth, the mood was a mix of triumph and trepidation. The scientists who had achieved the breakthrough were celebrated as heroes, but the leaders of humanity knew that their newfound power came with immense responsibility. The zero-point energy technology was a double-edged sword, capable of both incredible good and unimaginable destruction. Debates erupted over how to proceed. Some argued for sharing the technology with the galaxy, believing that it would usher in an era of unprecedented cooperation and progress. Others, however, urged caution, pointing out that the elder races would see humanity as a threat and act accordingly. In the end, the decision was made to protect the technology at all costs. Humanity would not be bullied into submission, but neither would they recklessly provoke a conflict. As the galactic powers scrambled to respond, humanity took its first steps onto the interstellar stage. A ship powered by zero-point energy was launched, its destination a neutral world on the fringes of galactic civilization. The mission was both a demonstration of humanity's capabilities and an offer of friendship. The ship's crew delivered aid and technology to the neutral world, showcasing the potential of zero-point energy to improve lives and foster cooperation. The gesture was met with gratitude by some and suspicion by others. The elder races watched closely, their unease growing with each passing day. Humanity's rise was no longer a distant possibility. It was a reality, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galactic community was thrown into chaos as the implications of humanity's breakthrough became impossible to ignore. The elder races, long accustomed to their dominance, found themselves facing an unprecedented challenge. Emergency meetings were held, alliances were tested, and strategies were debated, but no clear path forward emerged. The once stable balance of power was crumbling, and the galaxy was teetering on the edge of panic. Humanity's demonstration of zero-point energy technology had sent shockwaves through the stars, and the elder races were divided on how to respond. Some advocated for immediate action, arguing that humanity's rise must be stopped before it was too late. Others, however, cautioned against provoking a species that now held such power, warning that any misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences. As the debates raged, humanity continued to make its presence felt. The interstellar ship powered by zero-point energy became a symbol of their newfound capabilities, visiting neutral worlds and offering aid in exchange for alliances. These gestures were carefully calculated, designed to showcase humanity's potential as a force for good while also demonstrating their strength. The smaller species, long oppressed by the elder races, saw an opportunity in humanity's rise. They began to align themselves with Earth, drawn by the promise of shared technology and a chance to break free from the dominance of the galactic powers. This shift in allegiances only deepened the unease among the elder races, who now faced the prospect of a united front against them. Tensions escalated as the galactic powers began to fortify their borders and prepare for potential conflict. Military fleets were mobilized and defensive systems were activated, but the elder races were hesitant to take direct action. Humanity's restraint in the face of their newfound power had created a dilemma. While some saw their actions as a sign of weakness, others recognized it as a calculated strategy designed to win hearts and minds. The smaller species, emboldened by humanity's example, began to push back against the elder races, demanding greater autonomy and to share the galaxy's resources. The balance of power was shifting, and the elder races found themselves increasingly isolated. On Earth, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The leaders of humanity were acutely aware of the risks they faced, but they also recognized the opportunities that lay before them. The zero-point energy technology had given them a chance to reshape the galaxy, but had also made them a target. Debates continued over how best to proceed, with some advocating for a more aggressive stance to secure humanity's position, while others argued for continued diplomacy and restraint. The stakes were high, and the decisions made in the coming days would determine the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. As the galactic powers struggled to respond, humanity's influence continued to grow. The alliances they had forged with the smaller species began to bear fruit, creating a network of support that extended across the stars. The elder races, once so confident in their dominance, now found themselves on the defensive. The balance of power had been shattered, and the galaxy was entering a new era, one in which humanity would play a central role. The question that remained was whether they would use their power to create a brighter future or succumb to the same temptations that had led the elder races astray. The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that the choices made in the days to come would shape the destiny of all. The fragile peace that held the galaxy together for millennia was shattered when a coalition of elder races launched a surprise attack on a human colony. The assault was swift and brutal, designed to cripple humanity's foothold in the stars and seize the zero-point energy technology that had made them a threat. The colony, though defended by advanced human technology, was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the attack. Thousands of lives were lost, and the survivors were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered home. The attack sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and humanity found itself at a crossroads. The leaders of Earth were faced with a choice: retaliate with overwhelming force or seek a diplomatic solution that could prevent further bloodshed. The debate on Earth was fierce and divided. Some argued that humanity had no choice but to respond with full force, demonstrating to the galaxy that they would not be cowed by aggression. Others, however, urged restraint, pointing out that a disproportionate response could escalate the conflict and lead to all-out war. In the end, a middle path was chosen. Humanity would retaliate, but the response would be measured and precise, targeting only the military installations responsible for the attack. The counterstrike was a masterclass in strategy and efficiency, showcasing humanity's technological superiority while also sending a clear message. They would defend themselves, but they would not become the aggressors. The precision of humanity's retaliation stunned the galaxy. The elder races, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with brute force, were unprepared for the surgical precision of humanity's response. The targeted strikes crippled the coalition's military capabilities without causing unnecessary collateral damage, a stark contrast to the destruction wrought by the attack on the human colony. The smaller species, who had long suffered under the heel of the elder races, saw humanity's restraint as a sign of strength and moral clarity. The alliances that had begun to form in the wake of humanity's rise grew stronger as more species looked to Earth for leadership and protection. The attack and its aftermath sparked a global debate on Earth about the ethics of wielding such powerful technology. The zero-point energy breakthrough had given humanity the means to reshape the galaxy, but it also placed a heavy burden on their shoulders. Some argued that the technology should be used to ensure humanity's survival, even if it meant resorting to preemptive strikes against potential threats. Others, however, warned against the dangers of becoming what they had once fought against, pointing out that the elder races had fallen into the same trap of using their power to dominate others. The debate highlighted the tension between humanity's ideals and the harsh realities of galactic politics, forcing them to confront difficult questions about their role in the universe. As the dust settled, humanity's restraint began to yield unexpected dividends. The smaller species, inspired by their example, began to push back against the elder races with renewed vigor. The alliances that had formed around Earth grew stronger, creating a coalition of species united by a shared vision of a more just and equitable galaxy. The elder races, once so confident in their dominance, now found themselves increasingly isolated. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy was entering a new era, one in which humanity would play a central role. The choices they made in the coming days would determine not just their own fate, but the destiny of the entire galaxy. The stakes were higher than ever, and the galaxy watched with bated breath as humanity prepared to take its next steps into the unknown. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, its future hanging in the balance as representatives from every corner of the stars gathered for a historic summit. Humanity, once dismissed as a primitive species, now found itself at the center of negotiations that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The elder races, their dominance waning, were forced to sit alongside the smaller species they had long oppressed, all united by the need to address the seismic shift in power brought about by humanity's rise. Earth's leaders proposed a new framework for galactic governance, one based on cooperation, shared technology, and mutual respect. The proposal was bold and ambitious, offering a vision of a galaxy where no species would be left behind. But it was also met with resistance, as the elder races clung to the remnants of their power, and the smaller species sought guarantees that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. The summit was a tense and fraught affair, with every species jockeying for position and influence. The elder races, still reeling from humanity's measured retaliation, were wary of any agreement that would further erode their authority. The smaller species, emboldened by humanity's support, demanded greater autonomy and a fair share of the galaxy's resources. Humanity, caught in the middle, worked tirelessly to broker a compromise that would satisfy all parties. The stakes were impossibly high, and the negotiations teetered on the brink of collapse more than once. But humanity's leaders, guided by a commitment to their ideals and a deep understanding of the consequences of failure, refused to give up. As the summit reached its climax, a rogue faction within the elder races made a desperate bid to sabotage the proceedings. Believing that a return to the old order was the only way to preserve their power, they orchestrated a series of attacks designed to incite chaos and derail the negotiations. But their plan was foiled by humanity and its allies, who worked together to uncover the plot and bring the conspirators to justice. The attempted sabotage backfired spectacularly, exposing the faction's desperation and further eroding the elder race's credibility. The act of unity in the face of adversity solidified humanity's reputation as a force for stability and justice, and it galvanized support for their proposed framework. With the rogue faction neutralized, the summit concluded with the signing of a new galactic treaty. The agreement enshrined the principles of cooperation and shared responsibility, with humanity as a key signatory. The zero-point energy technology, once a source of fear and division, was placed under strict regulations to ensure it would be used for the benefit of all. The smaller species were granted greater autonomy and a voice in galactic affairs, while the elder races were given a chance to rebuild their influence through diplomacy rather than domination. The galaxy, though scarred by the conflicts of the past, now had a foundation upon which to build a brighter future. On Earth, humanity reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a species struggling to survive on a single planet, they had risen to become a beacon of hope and progress in a galaxy once ruled by fear and oppression. The zero-point energy breakthrough had been the catalyst for their rise, but it was their commitment to their values that had secured their place among the stars. The road ahead would not be easy, and the challenges they faced would be immense. But humanity had proven that they were capable of wielding great power with wisdom and restraint, and they were determined to use that power to create a future worthy of their ideals. The galaxy, once so divided, now looked to humanity as a symbol of what could be achieved when species worked together. The balance of power had been shattered, but in its place, a new order was emerging, one built on hope, cooperation, and the promise of a better tomorrow.